What's going on? Another lovely day here on Delmarva. 3 days ago it was hailing. Yesterday it was almost 80 degrees all day long. Today I wake up to a thick coat of permafrost, and it's below freezing so far. So this place is insane because it's the eastern shore of Maryland lies between two large bodies of water. And I think it just kind of screws everything up. It's got its own climate here. But anyway, answering Jonathan Helm's question of how would you organize training for someone that can only train strength twice a week? Well, obviously efficiency is going to be key here, and then specificity is going to be key here as well. So what you want to do, you can do whatever the fuck you want to. But what I would do is you're probably going to want to split it up so you have many days of rest as you can in between, but I would split it up so that you're squatting, benching, and deadlifting all in the same session. It's the only way you're going to kind of accumulate enough practice with the lifts to kind of get any kind of consistent form to actually see any kind of improvement over any kind of timeline or anything over any period of time. Really, I'm a big fan of, just kind of, concurrent training, I guess, if you wanted to call it something. Just training training all of the skills necessary for strength at the same time, just with kind of varying emphasis. So you could have, your day one day of your first block of training. So assuming it's some kind of like accumulation, some kind of hypertrophy thing that you're doing for the first couple of weeks, you could squat, bench, and deadlift. You could have a kind of hypertrophy squat and bench day, and then kind of a strength deadlift day. So, you can use whatever you want to figure that out. Use Prelipin's table, whatever. You could squat and bench around 75%, deadlift around 85%. If you have any energy left over and you have any time left over, you can hop in, do something else. Any kind of assistant stuff you'd like to do. And then, that second day you come in, you could do something like a squat and bench strength day, deadlift hypertrophy day if you wanted to. And then that way you can kind of cycle through that for a couple weeks, and then you can even get to the point where you're training, you could have a hypertrophy, a strength, and a power all in the same session, and just kind of, vary the importance of them depending on what you'd like to work on. Like, say your squat's lagging a little bit, and you feel like that's because you're not moving enough heavy weights on squats. Well, day one could be squat strength day, bench hypertrophy day, deadlift power day, and then you could vary it up the next time where you're doing you could have another squat strength day, have some back off kind of, offsets like hypertrophy work or whatever the hell you want to call it. Then, you could do a bench power day, deadlift hypertrophy day. You just want to keep those three skills in mind. Keep in mind the varying percentage and rep ranges and volume and stuff that you would want to do for each one of those, and just make sure you're working on all of them constantly, in one way or another, So you just want to make sure within you might want to start planning out your training in 2-week blocks, because then that way, you're making sure you're hitting at least all the skills, those three kind of training variables that you want to, hypertrophy, strength, and power. You're hitting each one of them at least once throughout each 2-week block. It'd probably be the easiest way to do it instead of trying to fitting everything in a week. And then, you have a lot of off days, you have a lot of downtime. It's actually not a bad thing, doing stuff like working on just hip and spine stability stuff, like do some planks at home, do some hip lifts, some bridges, some McGill crunches if you can, some Cook hip lifts if you can. Those are really two really cool exercises, just for general kind of hip stability, correcting any imbalances, anything like that. And if you got a treadmill at home, you can do as much aerobic stuff as you want to. I really don't think, as long as you're not fucking jogging a 5K every day, it shouldn't affect your strength at all. So I don't know. It looks like you got a lot of options. It's just you gotta sit down. The key to making this work would be sitting down, planning it out, making sure you're constantly kind of testing what you're doing with plus sets. You can do that on your strength or your power day stuff. You do it on your hypertrophy stuff. It really doesn't matter. I love using plus sets at different percentages to kind of gauge exactly where someone is without making them go through the kind of the neurological stress of having to max out all the time. And that's something, low enough percentages, you can do that all the time and it's still if someone's in decent enough shape, it shouldn't affect recovery or anything else that you're working on, unless your training's just batshit fucking crazy. But yeah, I mean, you got some options here, and then with any assistance stuff you don't get to the day of your training, I mean, I'd strongly suggest picking up a couple pairs of bands, something like that. Some cheap ones from like Rogue or Elite FTS. Actually, I'd strongly suggest Elite FTS. I've seen more Rogue bands break on people than fucking anything. I mean, that way you can throw the band over a door, like do some tricep extensions, you can do some curls, you can do shrugs. You're only limited by your creativity with the assistance work that you can do with bands on a day-to-day basis. So, I mean, it's definitely not ideal as far as actually getting stronger, because there's no way you can get enough practice with the lifts unless you're just going fucking ham on your volume every single time you step into the gym. But then, you're gonna still feel like shit 4 days later when you get back in for the next session. So yeah, hopefully that kind of answered your question a little bit. Send me a message on Facebook, and I can put together like a kind of a sample kind of template thing, and then just give you some ideas to kind of work off of, at least a place to start. But all right, man, have a good one.